the 7 mistakes I made when I bought my first rental property.
So, assuming now you've done your homework, you've done everything right, and you took the plunge, and you decided to buy a property. Wow, an income-generating property. Congratulations. But is that all? Wait for a minute, there's more to come. What I did, the first mistake we make as human beings and everywhere is you go in there, you say, I'm the owner of this property. Resist from that temptation. You are not the owner. Why am I saying resist and say I'm not the owner? Because look at this. Have you gone to your pastor and your pastor says, I'm God? Or he says, I'm going to consult God and come back to you. Have you met God? We haven't, but we believe, right? So that's what I'm saying. You are not the owner. If you are not the owner, you can always go back to your tenant and say, sorry, the owner said no. You understand? Yes. Now the buck stops with you. So please, my child doesn't have food. Please, I cannot do this. Please, 100 rent, 200 rent, 300 rent. 2 years later, we had debt of over $500,000 that we had to write off. Because you are the owner. So you're the one that has to make the decision, and you're a human being, you're going to feel for them. So rule number 1, you are never the owner. You are owner on paper, but you are never an owner physically. Rule number 1. That's what I mean by keep your humility. Resist from that temptation. So you are not the owner. Number 2, taking in tenant on face value basis. Oh, look at him. I like this guy. He's tall. He's got it. Yeah, I can trust this guy. It doesn't work like that. Do your credit check. Verify the bank statement. Verify that the pay slip. Make sure that indeed those people are employed. Phone the company. It doesn't take long. I didn't do that. The next thing, you go and find out the person was fired 10 years ago. People make up bank statements. People make up pay slip. If you find anything dodgy on that bank statement, phone the bank. I'm a landlord. I'm about to take this tenant. I'm not really sure. Is this account right? They will tell you. But now even TPN has made it very easy for us. You can run it through TPN. Right? So do not take anyone on face value basis. Do a checklist. Inventory checklist. Person coming in, do your checklist. Because the deposit at the end of the day is going to be a big fight. So do a checklist so that when the person is moving out, you then go in and say, hey, this is what the checklist says. This is how this thing is. You fix it, or I take my deposit money to fix it, or I give you back your deposit money because you've been a good tenant. I wish I get people like you all the time. Right? So checklist. The 4th thing is rent due date. I said rent due date is on the 1st of every month. That's wrong. Your rent due date is not on the 1st of every month. Here in South Africa, almost 90% of all employers pay people before the 25th of every month. Government employees is even better, 15th of every month. So don't put it on the 1st. You know why? Because there's a law in South Africa that says 7 days grace period. It means that the guy doesn't pay on the 1st. You're waiting until the 7th. The 7th comes, the guy hasn't paid. By the time you start your process, the month is gone. And if you manage to get your rental on the 25th, it means that come the 1st, you're already evicting that person. But if you get your rental on the 25th, and you have set your your payment date, your bond payment date on the 15th. You've got 15 days to put it in an account that's going to generate interest. That's how I bought that 90 properties. 15 days to get interest on that money before you pay your creditor. I learned it very late until I found myself a mentor. But that's what mentorship is about. Right? So you don't put it on the first. Your lease agreement, everybody says 1 year lease agreement. It's wrong. Especially if you want to be a serial entrepreneur. 3 years lease agreement, take it or leave it with a 10% annual escalation rate. Leave it if you're not going to take it. Why am I saying 3 years lease agreement? When you take it to the bank, I look good, better than a 12 months lease. Because by the time the bank, you don't get in there and boom, things happen. It depends on how much you are looking for. Some money gets done within 1 minute. Other money gets done within a week. Other money takes days and years and months because you have to go to credit, you have to do this. So by the time you are finished with the money that you are looking for, the lease has expired. Then the bank says, can you get us another lease? At that time, if you're not lucky and you don't have a good tenant or whatever that story is, and the tenant is not around, they are busy, your opportunity is gone. So you must always be prepared for opportunity. 3 years gives you that grace so that you can negotiate better. The banks like it when you've got a long-term lease. That is why banks don't give money to people who don't have a salary or work for a reputable company, because it's a security. So if your salary is a security, your lease agreement is the security. So always make sure it's a 3-year lease. If you do 5-year lease, you could, but you have to register it with the deeds office, so it takes longer. So just stick to 3 years and renew after every 3 years if you have a good tenant. And another thing, talking about good tenants, in your contract, you must also make sure that you have something called Alienation Act. Alienation Act, what it does is that if I go to court, there's still charges that I have to pay if I hired an attorney, right? The court order, eviction order, just says go and kick that person out. But if you have an Alienation Act in that contract, it automatically says that everything that's in the house that is movable can be used against the amount that the person owes you. So when the sheriff goes there, they'll have their own way of calculating. So the only thing the person can get out of that place is the bed. That's it. Depending on how much they owe you, because the only thing they can't touch is the bed. So make sure that you've got that in your contract, right? Then you mustn't be lazy. Visit your property. I'm not saying go knock on your property. I want to come and check if everything. No. Drive past your property. Look at the environment. If it's dirty, fix it. If it's something that you wouldn't be able to go and sleep there, fix it. So pay attention to the maintenance of your property, because that will help you to keep the right tenant in your property. Some tenants are not going to call you to say, hey, because you didn't fix this, I'm going. No, they will just leave. And most of the time, those ones are the good tenants that pay on time. Because anybody that respects themselves doesn't like nonsense. They've got a choice, they will find another place. And those are the people you want to keep in your property. But it doesn't mean that everything that's broken, if you fix your pipe and the guy is reckless, you must also go and fix. No, you must be shrewd with your money. But so make sure that you visit your property. Another thing is, there's a difference between being friends and friendly with your tenants. Don't be friends with your tenants. This is business. But be friendly with your tenants. There's a big difference. Being friendly means, hey, this thing is broken. Okay, sure, we're going to get somebody to come, or I'll come there and come check and it gets fixed. Or I lost my key somewhere and I need a spare key. Yes, you pay me a fee for my transport to get there, but I'll bring it now because I know that you need to go and sleep and go to work the next day. So wherever I am or whoever that's working with me will make sure that it's there, but you pay. Those are the kind of friendliness I'm talking about. Don't go sit drinking with your tenants. Don't go sit partying with your tenants. Do not, because then what's going to happen is they're going to say to you, oh, sorry, I don't have 100 rent to buy or 2 rent to buy food. Now, if your tenant doesn't have money to buy food, do you think they have the money to pay you rent? So that's why you differentiate between the two. You are friendly, but you are not friends with your tenants. It's very important. And file your papers on time. If the guy doesn't pay, if the guy phones you today and says, I am going to pay you on Friday, the moment he said to you, I'm going to pay you on Friday, you start putting your document together to take that person to housing tribunal because it's free. You are not going to court. You are just going to make sure that everything is in order. What housing tribunal is there for is when you get there, say, the guy can't afford, because I can promise you Friday will come, you won't have any money in your account. So you make sure that anytime somebody calls you, you've already started with your papers. This is how you then grow your money, because money is a slave and it comes in a disguised form. So these little things that you do, and people will say, that guy is stingy, that guy is so straight, but that's how you earn your respect. The guy that's very friendly doesn't earn that. Thank you very much.
Be a legacy builder. Watch the next video and don't forget to subscribe.